going there, it's women who they're evangelizing in certain denominations because of their cultural context. They need, right? Boys and men are being recruited for war in some cases. And so giving women resources for work, for making money, all those kind of things is the way of some of the developing countries. And so women is high priority for that to develop women in ministry. Okay, now I want to take that, okay, so we take this kind of global picture, and in a year or two, we're reaching more kids globally than U.S. Field, right? Who are we supposed to start learning from, right? Because they're growing, and where do you hear some of that? What does it do? Women, what does that do when you hear about that context in developing countries? Does it make you bolder, or does it make you want to stay the same? Bold. There are women in Africa, when they come on Young Life staff and they have leadership assigned to their title, they're basically saying, I will probably not be getting married because it's not acceptable in their culture for the woman to be the leader. Okay. I think Pam told me of her group that she just trained, there's only 2 of the women that are married, and they're married to Westerners, the African women. Okay? Because they know when they enter into this, they're probably saying no to a family unless there's some indigenous man who's not threatened by that. Okay? That, I don't know about you, but that makes me have more courage.
Okay, as a 22-year-old woman in my first 6 months in staff, that makes me fearful. Because I want to get married and I want to have kids, but I would love to stay in this leadership and in this role and grow in this field. Is that possible for me?
But that's in Africa.
Right, I know, but yeah. I'm talking here. Is that possible for me here? Because it doesn't, I don't know, it just, yeah.
Do you feel like that's not a value of your friends and family, that you're a leader?
I'm saying it's hard to do within the structure of Young Life.
Yes. Say a little bit more about that.
How much time are we allowing for single people to even try and find anybody? How do you do that? And then once you do, like, how am I supposed to raise a kid when I'm pointing at all these other kids in the time schedule? So I'm supposed to go do Young Life after school and on the weekends. If I'm trying to raise a kid, when do I spend time with my kid? After school and on the weekends. So it's just interesting that we're talking globally, but like even within this country, like, I don't know, and how much I want to get married, but they're not all people single in the ministry that want to get married, but that's the pressure that we're supposed to get married. But is there a space to get married? Sorry.
No, I think it's very legitimate. Which, do you mind if I come back to that?
Yep.
Just a minute? Okay. Because that, yeah, I'll come back to that in just a minute. I guess I missed that. I guess I'll come back to it right now. Right now, and stop me, Chris, if you've already talked about this in your context, but right now there's been some structural changes in the context of Young Life, in that prior to this we had a vice president of multi-ethnic, a vice president of Capernaum, of the Focus Ministries, right? And we had a chief diversity officer. Have you talked about this already? Okay. So right now, what's changed about that is Bibi, who is the Chief Diversity Officer, is now the Senior Vice President of Focus Ministries. And Arthur Satherite is the Vice President of Diversity and Inclusion. And under that is multicultural and women in leadership, okay? The first time women in leadership have ever had any representation, okay? And this is in process. Cody, don't put this on the tape. But they just hired Judy Kostemeyer full-time, who's going to be in that role, okay? And one of the top things on their priority list is some of these things that you're actually asking. Because we've been asking about it for decades, okay? And now they're finally putting some funding behind it and some people's jobs behind it, okay? To talk about some of these things. And the Women's Leadership Council has been around for a while, but as a volunteer group, I've been on women's leadership, but it's frustrating because there's no teeth behind anything, right? Now that we have Arthur and Judy and some very clear mandates from our president of where we're going, there's going to be some teeth behind some of these things. So in answer to your question, I don't know. But I do know that they're talking about the structure of assignments for working families, because more and more women are being the primary breadwinners for families. And so what does that mean if there's, in traditional space, women went along or the spouse went along to care for your kids while you're on assignment, right? In my case, my husband went along, but he was a teacher, so he could, right? But we're eliminating all kinds of staff from serving at campus assignments. So they're talking about all those things right now. Does not answer your question, but it is a priority, is what I'm trying to say, in a new way.
Can I weigh in on that too?
Yeah.
So I think it's a great question, and I think I asked a similar question. So I recently got married, and talking about having kids, right? Like that's kind of the next like big life stage. And I have a few thoughts. So one, I think like figure it out. Like there's not a like formula of like, well, when this happens then you do this, and then when this, like when you are dating then you get this time off. Like there's not a formula for that, but like I think when you come to different stages in your life, like figure it out. And I think our region, so I'd say Aaron and Chris as my bosses, and I'm sure Chris Hoffland would, maybe I shouldn't speak for him, but I think like, and as an area director, like if I had somebody on staff that was like trying to figure out, well, can I be a team leader and be married, and how do I be a parent in that? I'd say like, I'm not sure, but let's figure it out. Let's figure it out together. And I think Aaron has been like flexible in the like, how do we do assignment? Like, how do we make that work? And like, my husband also works. Like, he's not gonna take 3 weeks of vacation to come hang out with me, as great as like that would be. And the reality of assignment is that he came in front of me. He's like, I didn't really see you, and I was like, yeah, sorry about that. So I'd say like you'll figure it out. I'd also say have really good boundaries on your time, because young life will eat all the time that you allow it to. So having people around you, like good friends or family that can say like, hey, if like you worked every night this week, like maybe you should only work 2 nights a week. And you're like, that's impossible, there's no way I can possibly do that. And they're like, well, like maybe it's time to figure it out. Like, in some phases of life you can work most nights, although I would argue you should never work every night. So I'd say like sounds like regionally I think we do a good job of this, of like let's figure it out together.
And I would say that is very true of this region, very true. And I do think too that having people on the regional leadership team like Sarah and Molly and Erin being in her role, all those voices that Chris has around them can lend to that moving forward even faster. So he's got they have a team of people that are figuring that out together. That's very important. But not every region has that. And so you'll go to trainings and stuff and you'll hear stories, and you have to not be afraid to engage in those conversations in this context. Because Chris is very willing to enter into those conversations, as you know. And so in many ways, if we don't engage in those conversations and have the courage to even point it out, we're not going to move anywhere, right? And so we have to do that. And I'm just going to close with a couple of things here, just because I know, like, okay, what is it that you take away from this conversation? I think we want to melt it down, like Kristen kind of said at the end, like, yeah, we all want solutions. We all want this to be better, okay? And we can come down to these little situations, and I would say here's a few of the things I would encourage women in particular. I think the greatest gift If we think about the kids that we serve are the thread that is pulled in the context of who God is. God is up here, the kids that are around us. And the common thread is for us to know ourselves and who God made us to be and walk boldly and confident in that place. That's the greatest gift I can give the girls and women I serve, is for me to know myself in the context of who God made me and to know my God. And to walk boldly forward in that context. The greatest gift that we can give anybody around us. And so what does that look like to know yourself? Here's some things I wish I would have done when I was younger. I wish I would have taken the time to know myself. I wish I would have taken every personality assessment I possibly could and had people come around me and speaking to me in the context of those things. I wish I would have asked for what people saw in me. Thankfully, I had some really good people that did say that, and then start developing those skills. I was told decades ago, Lynn, you are so great at developing people because you love developing yourself, because you love digging deep and finding Jesus in them. But I didn't listen. I denied that. And now, the greatest gift I have is I've been going after some of those things. I've gotten my executive coaching certification. I've gone after things that let me help Enneagram develop people. And I'm fully alive, in a way that I haven't been before. Now I know God has more because I'm going to keep going. But I think that's the greatest gift that we can give the kids we serve and each other. Okay? And I think the other thing to think about as men in this room is the same, right? Because in order to give up power or to include difference in our lives, especially probably the white men in this room, you have to get comfortable in who you are and who God made you to be, so that you can embrace the willingness to have input or to develop team or to be part of something bigger. And I can't help but think that if we look back to 20 years ago in the mission, right? You saw some of those dates. In the 90s, some folks were seeing women up front for the first time. It's the people in this room that are going to dictate what kids get to experience at camp 20 years from now. Okay? And I can't tell you that I can tell you this, that the God of the universe wants the kingdom to come. Okay? And he wants the kingdom to come through the lives of the kids we represent. And so you in this room, us in this room, how do we personally have to change? And then how do we corporately and organizationally have to change in order for every kid that comes to camp in 20 years to be able to see themselves as a minister of the gospel, as a representation of Jesus, to see themselves as the hope of Christ. I mean, that's incredible. But 20 years ago, there's only a handful of women that could come to camp. And yeah, it had to be just the right camp, at just the right time, just the right day, to be able to see themselves in that space. Okay? So I'm just going to kind of leave that there for us to think about. But I would love for you to maybe just circle up with your people and just take what is one or two things that you're really engaging in your mind right now that are either challenging you, interesting, or that you have questions about. Okay, and then I'll keep this well.